my name is Holly Hughes, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for BAI. Joining me today is Debbie Bianucci, President and CEO of BAI, and Dennis Gada, Head of Financial Services for North America at Infosys. Together, we're going to discuss innovation trends related to digital transformation in financial services, with a focus on the BAI Global Innovation Awards 2021 finalists and winner in the digital transformation category. Debbie and Dennis, it's great to be with you virtually today and have this discussion. Debbie, I thought we could start out with you. You know, this is an exciting time of year as BAI has recently announced the finalists and the winner of the 2021 BAI Global Innovation Awards. We had 5 really strong finalists in the digital transformation category. And as one of the Innovation Circle judges yourself for the program, can you talk about the types of organizations and innovations that made the cut as finalists this year?
Well, thanks, Holly. It's great to be here to be able to talk about this. BAI has been recognizing innovation for over a decade, and this year was exceptional in terms of the types of nominations that we saw for innovation in the digital transformation category. And it was great to see a mix of organizations that made the finalist list. It was Deutsche Bank, Bank of America, Aviva Polska, Solaris Bank, and One Connect Smart Tech. And what's interesting about this is the diversity of the organizations that were recognized by the judging panel, ranging from traditional organizations as well as fintechs from all regions of the world. And so some of them have a long history with innovation, and some of them are newer to the industry. So we're very excited about the range of companies that were innovating. The types of innovations were also quite diverse. Clearly, APIs were very important, and we saw several examples of them being used with the nominees and the finalists. The cloud continues to be a high impact on the type of transformation that's happening. For example, Solaris was a bank that was particularly innovative in this space as they look at banking as a service models. And they were able to leverage modern cloud technologies to be able to do many different things than what we had seen in prior years. Another one was One Connect out of China, which interesting finalist and an example of using hubs to improve collaboration and foster new digital ecosystems, which is such an important part of what we're seeing in digital transformation. Their digital lab enabled fintech innovation by facilitating collaboration with banks, solutions providers, and regulators, which was quite an interesting mix of stakeholders in the ecosystem that they were building.
Yeah, and Dennis, I know Infosys does a lot of great work related to digital transformation and has deep expertise in this area. What are some of the trends that you're seeing related to digital transformation?
Thanks, Holly, and great to be here today with you and Debbie. Debbie already talked about some, great examples of the finalists, going through the digital transformation journey. Let me start by first saying that I feel that, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity in the financial services industry with the kind of transformation that's happening around us. And, 2021 has been truly a pivotal year for that. There was a lot of change, but if I have to focus on, maybe the top 2 or 3 areas from my perspective, first of all, I think, banks are really looking at the full stack, front to back digital transformation. It's not enough just to enhance the front end experiences, but really looking at the back end processes, the contact center, marketing related digital transformation to make the experience holistically better for clients, right? So front to back digitization is one key trend that we see. I think the other one is around, making banking embedded into customers' lifestyle, so that it's not a standalone activity to process some transactions or visit branches, which very few people do these days, But whenever you're buying a house, buying a car, or any other lifestyle activities that you're doing, going on a travel, etc., banking needs to follow you and be part of your lifestyle. And I think we're seeing a lot of focus in that area. Banks are trying to place their products in other companies' apps, in the fintech ecosystems, in the ride-sharing apps, and so on. And finally, I think one very important trend is around the entire talent transformation. To do this huge digital transformation that banks and financial services firms need to go through, they obviously need to significantly reskill and upskill their technology operations as well as business talent. They need to hire from other industries, and in the current environment, there's a huge talent shortage, as we know. So I think to really kind of leapfrog on the digital transformation journey, transforming the talent is also a very, very key focus area. So full stack, front to back digitization, embedded banking, and talent transformation would be three call outs from my side amongst the various other initiatives in digital transformation in banking.
Yeah, really good points. Thanks, Dennis. And you talked about that concept of embedding the technology, and good segue into speaking about the winner this year for the digital transformation category is really based on that premise. And the winner for 2021 is Deutsche Bank for their API program, which is embedded finance. And Deutsche Bank's API program, what it does is it enables partners to use individual client data to offer personalized digital apps. And initially, those apps mostly served as an extended bank account overview, while banking itself still took place at the bank. But Deutsche Bank really took it a step further, kind of like what you're saying, Dennis, in terms of how you explained it. With their technology, it really seamlessly integrates the entire financial products and banking services into a wide variety of non-bank products and applications, making banking an invisible yet ubiquitous part of everyday life. And Deutsche Bank's APIs enable third-party providers to embed banking products like accounts or credit cards directly into their own offerings. And their corporate clients can integrate their business bank account into their own IT landscape. So a lot of really good applications. And, Debbie, I know that, judges look at all these and it is tough to pick a winner for sure. Mm-hmm. What do you think stood out to the judges about Deutsche Bank's innovation?
And the judges were very impressed with what Deutsche Bank did. And I think what Dennis said is true. Dennis, you and I have been around this industry for a long time, and this really is a once in a lifetime opportunity to innovate. And that's what the judges saw Deutsche Bank doing. I think we felt that the platform enabled a level of collaboration using original different ways of collaborating with partners that was levels above what we had seen in the past. And it was really many steps ahead of what we saw some of the other banks doing in 2021. I think the approach that Deutsche Bank took really helped to demonstrate how you can be successful in innovating in an open banking world. But the real value was the collaboration and the impact that that work had to create a stronger user experience, all built around the company. And interestingly, this API first mentality that Deutsche Bank really lived was an important part of why they were standout.
Yeah, and I think, great point about that API first mentality. They spoke a lot about that in their nomination, and, really staying true to whenever a new digital banking product is developed, either using existing APIs or developing new ones. Dennis, I would love your take on that. What do you think the benefits of that approach are, and any cons that you see?
Sure. And again, first of all, congratulations to Deutsche Bank for being the winners and a great initiative with the API first strategy. I think the potential to use APIs and to kind of improve the experience, broaden the relationships has been growing exponentially, right? Especially if you look at many of the big tech companies like Apple, Google, Amazon. Their entire architecture is based on APIs because these are digitally native companies. But I think more and more we are seeing the application of similar concepts, similar architecture in financial services as well. And Deutsche Bank has truly been a leader in that space, as has been highlighted through this initiative. I think, there are, when you look at APIs, there are countries, especially in Europe, but also India, Australia, etc., where the government has mandated the use of APIs so that there is a more of an open marketplace for customers. But also in many other countries, like here in the US and other parts of the world, it is also kind of driven by the market because the customers are expecting better experiences, more value from their banks, and API is an enabler to that. If you look at some key benefits that at least we have seen, it really helps to make the overall infrastructure of banking, their kind of backend systems and platforms much more modern and simple. A key element of APIs is the usage of data. You're able to aggregate a lot more data than what you were able to do in the past, and not just internal data, but also external data, and then use it purposefully and meaningfully, to offer new products, to offer better experiences to customers. So it does really, expand the revenue stream and product offerings for banks as well. I think the other key part is, really enabling banks to be part of a larger ecosystem, a marketplace of sorts. And as we've seen some examples, especially in Asia, whether it's a Paytm in India or a WeChat in China. These are super apps that provide a marketplace for multiple services, including banking. And API-based architecture enables banks to participate in that kind of an ecosystem. So several benefits of growth, expansion, customer experience that come with an API-based strategy that Deutsche Bank is also following here. But of course, there are certain challenges or concerns to be addressed. There are always discussions around data and security, data privacy and security, around fraud in banking always exists. But can an open API kind of an architecture result in more fraudulent activities, and how you can prevent that? And many of these can be solved with technology, but API first strategy is really going to help banks grow their business and improve their experiences.
For sure. And you talked about that, customer experience element being so important. And Deutsche Bank talked about the importance of meeting customers directly at their point of need. So, question for both of you, Debbie, I'll start with you. Can you speak about the importance of customer centricity in driving relevant innovation?
I would say, Holly, that what the judges saw across all categories, and especially I'd say the last 2 to 3 years, but even more so in 21, is that focus on the customer is at the heart of innovation that really works. To be able to meet a customer need in a unique or unmet way is what seems to be the one key driver of successful innovation. And that has resulted from financial services companies building new capabilities and understanding what their customers' needs are, where their pain points are. And Deutsche Bank was particularly effective in being able to identify these pain points and to be able to respond. And I think that's another reason why they stood out so much for the judges.
Yeah, for sure. And Dennis, anything else that you would add around just that value of customer centricity and building that into the mindset?
Yeah, I think, the customers will actually be the primary beneficiaries, right, of open banking, and banks need to approach it in that way. And the focus is, not just on the experience design, but also on the full stack, as I mentioned earlier, and the service design. I can take a few examples, right? We were working with one of the banks where their end customer kind of came forward and said, you've designed this great front end layer, but opening an account still takes 30 days for me. So what's the point? And that was because a lot of the connections to the back end, to the external systems, etc., were still point to point and based on legacy systems. So I think an open API based strategy will really help to unlock the potential with the innovation focused on the customer. How can you simplify the mortgage origination process, right? From 30 to 45 days to a few days. How do you bring in like a TurboTax experience in lending for small businesses or for personal loans? Point of sale lending, as we've seen, recently during the Black Friday events as well, a lot of online shopping experiences allowed you to do point of sale lending for large value purchases, and all of that is enabled because of the API based systems that these firms have built. So tremendous opportunity to really innovate at the center point of customers using an API architecture.
Yeah, and Dennis, you mentioned earlier too, maybe let's take a kind of broader, worldview of APIs. And you mentioned, some governments requiring it. How are you seeing open banking and APIs drive meaningful change, more broadly? Any other interesting applications that you see globally?
Yeah, I think the kind of use cases for open banking and API are growing exponentially, right? But some that are really tried and tested and getting a lot of traction to call out, I feel one is around the increase in personal finance management, to really be able to aggregate your financial position across multiple bank accounts, investment accounts, etc. In fact, I use one of the aggregators here in the US, where everything, including your value of your house and property, is updated real time, and you get a full view of your net worth at any point of time. That's a great use case. I think we're seeing a lot of usage of API for credit decisioning, so that banks get real-time access to the credit history and any other information that is required to make underwriting decisions. It's very API-based, use cases are very prevalent in kind of designing next-gen corporate banking applications as well, whether it's for allowing corporate clients to access their accounts in multiple countries, conduct forex transactions, domestic cross-border payments, and AR, AP, etc. Right? Many large commercial banks have set up API developer portals, so that enterprises can build different use cases around that. I think another very interesting use case is around the whole request to pay, where you can proactively request payments from other bank accounts. This is again very useful for merchants and small businesses. So a whole host of use cases, right? Payroll processing and many others. It's all about what makes sense for your customers, how you can improve the experience as well as reduce the cost and become part of the larger ecosystem, Holly.
Yeah, I think those are a lot of great examples and opportunities. But it's interesting. I think, when it comes to open banking advancing more rapidly in the US, there still seems to be some resistance and concerns on a few fronts. And I think at BAI, a couple of things we hear are, regulatory concerns, information security for sure. Debbie, I know you speak with a lot of different C-level bankers. Where are their heads at now regarding open banking, do you think?
I do believe that open banking is on the short list of priorities, because executives in the US are watching what's happening in regions of the world, as Dennis described, and understanding that there are strategic benefits that the open banking model will bring in order for banks to be able to better serve their customers, be more transparent with their customers, grow relationships, and attract new business. And there are revenue opportunities associated with doing it well. The challenge, though, as you said, Howie, are things that are related to the regulatory environment, understanding and managing the risks associated with it, the technology required, and the legacy core banking systems that sometimes can limit what banks are able to innovate with in terms of technology. But overall, it's a high priority, I think, because the executives in the US, while they're still not as far along as other regions, they see that there are benefits to improve customer satisfaction and retention. And it can make a real difference in the way in which they serve their customers and compete in a highly competitive market in the future.
Yeah, and Dennis, any additional thoughts you have on this topic, including that security piece?
Yeah. No, I think that's always a very interesting topic to talk about, right? I think as in the case of any new technology, while there are lots of advantages, there are some challenges, and technology itself can solve some of those challenges. I think related to security, one of the benefits of open banking is that you can configure it, enable it to give customers a lot of control over their data, right? They can be made aware of how their data is being used, how much they want to share, how it is stored, and so on. So while it poses a challenge in terms of too much data being available with the banks, technology also provides a solution to provide almost like a consent layer on top using APIs to control the sharing and the usage of data. And I think that has helped several fintechs and banks gain the trust of customers that yes, they are completely in control of what data they are sharing and how it's being used. I think also as you interconnect multiple different platforms and aggregate a lot of data, there is always going to be a risk around frauds and other malicious activities, as I mentioned earlier. But again, using AI automation-based techniques, it's possible to detect patterns early, do more of preventive, proactive kind of activities, and control that as well. So I do believe that while there are challenges, technology offers actual solutions to mitigate some of those challenges as well.
Yeah, so can't let it be an excuse. There are tools out there,
Yeah.
that can help, with this area. I think some really good points. So certainly the pandemic, greatly accelerated the pace of digital adoption by financial institutions, by consumers, really out of necessity. So Dennis, let me ask you first, and then Debbie, I'll have you weigh in. Dennis, how do you see the pace of digital change and innovation playing out going forward?
Yeah, I think the pace of digital adoption is, only going to increase. It's an unstoppable force and cannot be reversed. I am a owner of a Tesla car, and I always keep saying, once you start driving a car like that, it's very difficult to go back to some of the older models. So it's a bit like that, right? I think the crisis really forced banks, their customers, to use several digital tools and processes when the lockdowns and other things are happening. And it has really been a catalyst to bring about this transformation. But now customers are expecting it, right? You are doing most of your shopping online, booking travel online, you are ordering groceries online, and so on. And banking is supposed to be, far ahead of many of those activities. So it's expected to be completely digital. So I feel, the new normal or the next normal, whatever you want to call it, is really to move away from branch-heavy, product-centric organizations with several legacy technologies to more customer-centric organizations with more personalized solutions and open architecture, so that you can innovate faster. In fact, we conducted a global survey of almost 1,000 respondents in financial services, and I think 3/4 of them said that their companies have doubled the pace of digital transformation, and almost 90% said that they believe that over the years, the investment in digital transformation is only going to go up. So again, we have a great opportunity to keep marching forward, and the force is really unstoppable.
Yeah, and Debbie, anything you would add?
Yeah, I agree with Dennis. I mean, the fact that customer expectations have continued to rise, I think, is the most important driver. But the competitive marketplace has also changed during this period, where you can see different types of financial services companies who are providing different types of services, which fuels the customer expectations that we see. But I think perhaps one of the things that may be driving the pace of innovation that Dennis described that came right out of the pandemic is that financial services companies had to innovate by turning on a dime when they went into the early stages of the pandemic-related service delivery that we were facing. And I think it gave a new lens to see innovation that enabled management teams to be able to move faster, to be bolder, and therefore try new things in a more agile approach. And so as we looked at all the innovation that we saw in 21, we think that was a factor that was driving the pace of innovation at a faster pace than what we had seen in prior years. But I agree with Dennis. I think it will continue to increase, and there's no going back.
And it's a great point, Debbie, right? Because when the PPP related things were mandated, the Paycheck Protection Program in the US, banks had to kind of deliver to that within 3 to 4 weeks. And then their business team started expecting that for the next change. Why does it take 3 to 4 months if you could do that in a few weeks? Mm-hmm. So I think the expectation from the end customers, but also from the business stakeholders within banks has really gone up significantly based on what has been delivered in the last 18 months.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great example, Dennis. Yeah. And so maybe just one final question as we wrap up here. So it's not slowing down, it's impacting organizations at all levels, as Dennis had mentioned earlier. So last question for you both, as we close out the year, we're about to flip the calendar. Where do you see financial services leaders channeling their innovation energy in 2022? Debbie, I'll have you go first, and then Dennis, I'll give you the last word.
Well, the digital transformation will continue, as we've been saying. And I think that it's driven by higher customer expectations and changing competitive dynamics, with major players like Amazon impacting the way in which people want to do business. And that is moving into financial services in a powerful way. But I also see that executives are spending more of their energy thinking about how to innovate, including diversity, equity, and inclusion, and ESG. These are areas that are absolutely going to not only be important to the customers of these financial services companies, but also to their employees. And so we're seeing more and more attention being paid to ways to be creative and innovative in DEI and ESG, which also then leads to the third point, which Dennis mentioned a little bit earlier, which is the great resignation. We have this war for talent, and the importance of being able to attract and retain and develop the teams of people who will be able to serve customers. Technology is important, but people are still there. And the talent strategies that these financial services companies are developing and executing are going to be an essential way that they are able to effectively compete into the future.
Great. Dennis, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Debbie covered a lot of the points. I feel, from a technology perspective, the focus on cloud APIs that we discussed today, and overall, modernization of the infrastructure and improving the experiences, that will just keep on, marching forward and get further accelerated. In terms of, specific banking products, I do feel that the whole point of sale lending, buy now, pay later is gaining a lot of traction across the world. And, more and more activities will shift from traditional credit cards to buy now, pay later kind of offerings. I do feel that, there is clearly a trend towards adoption of cryptocurrency. In fact, I saw a ATM kind of a machine where you could buy Bitcoins recently at an airport and at a mall. And while, those are just initial indications, there is certainly a lot of interest within banks and financial institutions to offer, trading and buying of those products and digital assets. And that will continue to see a rise in adoption. Finally, as Debbie also pointed out, ESG is going to be extremely important in different ways, not just in terms of reporting the metrics, but also really supporting businesses, investing in businesses which promote ESG. So again, there seems to be a lot of action and for 2022 and beyond. And as I said at the start, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity in the industry, and very excited to be part of it.
Yeah, it really is. Well, Debbie and Dennis, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insights. It has been exciting to see the innovation that's happening in this area and really what's on the horizon. And I also want to thank all of you who tuned in and encourage you to go to BAI.org to learn more about the 2021 BAI Global Innovation Award finalists and winners. And you can also find other thought leadership on these different trends that we've talked about: ESG, diversity, equity, inclusion, talent, all the things that you're going to be needing as you're planning for 2022 2022 and beyond. Thanks again for your time and have a great day.
Thank you, Holly.
Thanks, Holly.